Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Aggie Radio 92.3 KBLU in Logan. I am Ryker Thompson, and I am your late night entertainment. Welcome to Wicked Work. It is currently 8 o'clock in the beautiful city of Logan, the New York of the Mountain West Football Conference, as we like to say here on Aggie Radio. And you may notice a sense of maybe lightheartedness in the air tonight, maybe a little bit less satire in the room, some more joy. And that is because our dear, dear co-host, Harrison, will not be joining us tonight. It is just I, Ryker, in the booth. Now, obviously, I'm kidding. Harrison is wonderful, and we miss him very, very much. For all of you worried about Harrison, he's doing just fine. He just had some prior work commitments, and he should be back, hopefully next week. Not entirely sure. He could be back the week after that, but you may be thinking, Ryker, what are you going to talk about? There's no way you can go all by yourself, right? Well, nay, I say I can go all by myself. And we have plenty to talk about tonight. So we would love for you to stick around. I'm talking to you two out there walking by the booth. They did not like that. Anyway, so before we get started, we're going to go ahead. We're going to cut to a little song just to make sure I can get set up, ready to go, raring to go. This is from an album that I love very, very much. It's a song called 24-Hour Drive-Thru by the band Origami Angel. So this comes from their 2019 album, Somewhere City, which is a really, really good album. I would encourage you, if you like emo at all, or if you want to try something new, this is a very, very good album. It blends a lot of emo and math rock, but it's different in a lot of ways because it's a little more of uplifting sound, a little more optimistic, but still a wonderful, wonderful record. So we're going to go ahead and take that song real quick, and then you're going to come back, and don't even worry about it. We have so much to talk about, and I am so, so excited to be here tonight. Take it away, Origami Angel. This is 24-Hour Drive-Thru. All right, so the original idea for this show was I was going to text all of my friends, my dear, dear Centerpoint friends, and I was going to ask them to send me some burning questions they have about me. You know, like, how come you're so awesome? Or why is your face the way it is? And I would answer them live on air. But some of our friends did not respond. In fact, only one person responded. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. I sent you a very nice text asking for your help, and only one of you cared to help. So thank you, I guess. Thank you, Sophie. So we're not going to do that. But don't worry, I will be answering that question tonight. So stick around if you want to hear what my good friend Sophie wants to know about me. And actually, it follows very well into our theme. And we're going to get into the theme of tonight's episode in just a bit, but I'll give you a little rundown of my week. As mentioned last time on air, I went to the Bring Me the Horizon concert last Tuesday, and I had a wonderful time. Now, a little bit of context for this. I did go by myself. And before you go all like, oh, that's so sad. This guy's a loser. He has no friends. Nobody wants to go to concerts with him. Nobody will do Aggie Radio with him tonight. He's so sad. Nay, I say, like a horse. I chose intentionally to go by myself because the tickets were a bit on the pricey side. They were about $80. If I'm remembering right, for like upper bowl tickets. So they were, I mean, for ticket prices nowadays, that's not terrible, but like really still, like that's a lot of money to have someone justify if they don't know the band or don't want to go see them live. So I didn't end up finding anyone to go with me, so I just went by myself, and I still had a great time. And I want to tell you a little bit about that show, because when I got there, I ended up missing, that's a new one, use that, missing the opening band. Wow. See, without Harry here, I feel so much lighter. Like, no one's making fun of me for saying missing. Yeah, see? Nothing. Hey, what if I said something like Taggart Studert Center? Interesting, right? Very quiet. I ended up getting there around 6 o'clock-ish, which doors were at like 4:30, which to me, that's insane. To have a concert where the doors open an hour and 30 minutes before the first opening band plays? Like, what? That's insane. I'm not going to go sit in Maverick Center. It was at Maverick Center for an hour and 30 minutes by myself, which maybe if you brought friends, it'd be fun. I wouldn't know. By myself for an hour and a half waiting for the opening band to play. That's crazy. Anyway, I got there around 6, which is about when the first opening band played. I cannot remember for the life of me who it was on account of the fact that I did not watch them, which I'm terribly, terribly sorry, because I'm sure they were wonderful and had a great set. But if you've ever been to a concert, you know the merch line takes about 30 minutes, and I decided that I did not care enough about that opening band, and I got there about the time that they were, well, halfway through their set. So I was like, sorry, gang, I'm not listening to you. So instead, I went and stood in the merch line. So I technically heard them, but, you know, like I didn't really listen to them. So I'm sure they did great. No comments about that. Got me a really cool Bring Me the Horizon shirt. You might see me wearing it around. I don't know if you guys have seen like the thing on Instagram. It might be on TikTok too. But it's like a post of the dog in the propeller hat and the lollipop and the little kitty t-shirt, and the caption above it is like me wearing my band shirt the day after the concert, so everybody knows I had a good time. That's how I felt the next day, because I did wear my band shirt the next day, and it was awesome, so I have no regrets about that. Anyway, I stood in line, I got my shirt, and then I went to go sit in my spot, and I noticed there were 3 open spots next to me, so I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I can dance the night away. And I'm not going to be bugging anybody. And then, so sadly, well, I guess maybe not sadly, because these are just people who wanted to go see the show. 2 people came and sat right next to me. And they were probably between the ages of 40 and 50. And they were not there to dance and headbang like I was. So the entire night, they got put next to a kid who was screaming a lot of the lyrics and headbanging and dancing the whole night, and they sat there the whole time, and I felt so bad. Because just like, imagine you pay $80 to go see this band that you love very much. I'm assuming if you're paying $80 to go see these, and you show up and you get put next to a child who is there alone with no shame being there alone, and willing to scream the lyrics to every song and have a wonderful time. And you just want to sit and peacefully watch the show. That was the life that they had to endure for the next 4 hours. So felt pretty bad about them. I also kind of clickbaited them a little bit, because at the beginning for the 2 opening sets, which was The Plot in You and Motionless in White, I didn't really get up and sing at all or like dance very much. Because, you know, I didn't really know them. And I hate to tell you guys, Motionless in White was not great live. They kind of disappointed me a little bit, which was weird, because this is how all of their songs went. It, like, literally, it was insane. Every song started with a pretty good intro. Like, not great, not awesome, but something to get you hooked and be like, oh, okay, all right, yeah. And then the verse would be really good. And so you're like, okay, I'm getting into this now. My head's starting to bob a little bit. I'm starting to have a bit of a good time. And then they would clickbait you by dropping the most bummer chorus of all time, and they're doing harmonies, but they're like anti-harmonies and they suck and the rhythm has changed completely and you're like, what are we doing, gang? I'm sorry for doing a voice, but you're like, really? That was it's literally clickbait. They drop a banger of a verse to get you in, get hooked. You're starting to move, and then you're like, what? Huh? Why? Why have you disappointed me? Motionless in White. But they were a very good show band. They kept the audience lively. They did a great job. I'm not saying they're a bad band. I just didn't love them. The Plot in You was really good, but they only could play like 8 songs, so they were great. But then we get to Bring Me the Horizon, and oh my Lord, guys, can I tell you that is one of my favorite shows I've ever been to? They are a great band to see live. They sound really good live. They sound like their music. They have an amazing show. Their set list is very solid. They have probably, I'm not kidding you, probably about 200 lights on that stage for an hour and a half show, and about 150 lasers. And they have fire, they have pyrotechnics, they have sparks, they have fog machines. I mean, they have LED screens. There's a story. Like, this was awesome. This was an amazing show to go to. And I felt really bad because I got up and I was dancing, and I was dancing all over this poor guy's lap, and there were 3 empty seats next to me. You might remember that from earlier. And so you're thinking to yourself, Ryker, why didn't you just scoot over to the 3 empty seats? Well, because there was an entire row of people sitting behind the 3 empty seats, and I was the only person in my section standing at Bring Me the Horizon? What are we doing, dude? Like, for those of you who know Bring Me the Horizon, they're a metal band. Like, get up out of your seat and bang your heads with me. Stop sitting around like a bunch of wusses and let's have a good time. I was kind of mad about that. I was bummed out about that. And then I got back, and there's been a lot of TikToks I've been getting recently about people who went to the Backseat Lovers concert who are upset about the same thing, where everybody just sits in films and doesn't dance or sing the words or get up. Like, guys, we paid a lot of money to be here. Can we have a good time? I'm sorry. I was upset about that. But that's what that last week was like. That's what the concert was like. I went home over the weekend. I went and watched the Singapore Grand Prix. That was yet again another terrible race for me. Piastri had a generational crash out, which was so fun to watch and so sad at the same time. Hamilton's brakes exploded on the last lap, so he lost a position, which is a bummer. That car sucks so much. But some good news is the Broncos beat the Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champs, and that was a scary game. I won't lie. That was a stressful game. We were down 3-17 entering the fourth quarter, and we won 21-17. So Broncos are going to the Super Bowl. Changed my mind. Anyways, that was my weekend. Let's go ahead and get into what we're actually talking about today. It was late last night, and I had texted all my friends, and I told Harrison, which he was still there, which also, by the way, Harrison, you knew you weren't going to be here and you didn't give me anything to talk about on the show? Fake friends, I guess. So, yeah, I guess that's my life, sort of. Anyway, it was late last night, about midnight, and I had realized, well, I only have one question here. I don't think I can fill out an hour talking about that one question. Maybe I could. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how much I talk about it later. So I didn't really panic. I'm cool as a cucumber. No, I'm not. Anyway, I folded under zero pressure. I started to think, okay, I do have to fill the time. What am I going to talk about? And it had occurred to me that I could tell my life story. But then I sat there and thought about it, and I was like, that's going to be really boring because I have not had that crazy of a life. I grew up in the suburbs in Utah, Davis County, Utah. Like, no, That's not going to be that interesting. But I began thinking about important things in my life, and theater came up. And I did realize what is pretty interesting is the story of how I got into theater and the path that led me to do shows and become the man I am today, the twink I am today, you could say. And that rhymed. So we are going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about my theater life story, which I think is going to be really, really fun. I'm really excited about that. To start off, I would definitely say there is a part of me that, I guess, ashamed isn't the word I'm looking for, but there's a part of me, I think a lot of men in theater can relate to this, that tries to maybe hide my love for theater sometimes, which is sad because it is really a big part of my life. It's a huge deal. I actually was talking with one of my friends who he goes to a different school before we left for college, and he was mentioning, he was like, I'm not telling anybody that I did theater. And we were all like, dude, you can't not tell people that you did theater. That was like, for him, it was like 10 or 11 years of his life. Like it's a large part of our life growing up. It was a big deal for our friend group. And we're like, you can't not tell people that. But he was like, no, I don't want people seeing me as a theater kid. And I think that's so sad. Now, obviously, I think there is a stigma surrounding, I think it's a worse stigma surrounding males that do theater. I don't think I need to spell out exactly what it is. Obviously, I very much disagree with that as a man. I don't know what I'm saying here, but obviously that's a negative stereotype. And I think it's a shame that we make fun of people for that. Even in general, I think you guys are picking up on what I'm putting down, because here at Wicked Work, we love everybody equally, and we think you should be able to love everybody equally and love the people you love. So there's my hot take for the night. But I could definitely see where he's coming from. And there is definitely a stigma surrounding theater kids, like theater kids. And I do think there is a difference between people who are like, theater is my life. It's all I care about. And there are people like that in every field. But not everybody is like that, obviously. And that's some stereotyping, and stereotypes are bad. All stereotypes are bad. Wow, I'm being hot with the mic tonight. Anyway, so there was definitely a part of me that was thinking like, oh, do I really want to tell this story of my theater life? But at some point, it is a big part of my life, and I love it so much, and I think it's a great thing. And I think we should start getting rid of that stigma around it, because I think it does really good things for people. I think theater is great for building confidence, as an outlet for like emotions. I think it is a beautiful art form. I think art is very, very, very important in our society, especially now as we sadly seem to turn away from it. I think we should definitely realize the importance of art. So I'm going to talk about my theater journey, and I got we're going to make it kind of fun. We're going to have a little bit of a segue into it, if you will. I don't know if this is going to be dumb. We're going to see. Let's find out, shall we? Oh
my God, bro.
Oh, hell no.
Oh, hell no.
Oh, hell
no. The year is 2018. And there is a young boy in a land far away from Logan, about an hour and 20 minutes or so, coming out of Woods Cross, Utah, and his dream in life is to be a DJ. That was a real dream of mine for a long time. I thought my career was to be a DJ in the club. There's a photo of me. I'll see if I can find it, and we'll put it in the video. During career day, I went to a charter school called LPA. I'm not going to give the exact name. And we had a career day, and I had dressed up. I put on a hoodie. I put on some sick over-the-ear headphones. And I brought my turntable that I had bought at the time, my USB turntable, and I had wanted to be a DJ. So this was my dream aspirations at the time. I was playing a lot of soccer. I loved soccer. I played it for 4 or 5 years, and it's sixth grade year. It's 2018. And the summer's coming up, and I've made a couple of new friends, and they are all doing theater. In fact, one of my really good friend's moms at the time was the director for, so Legacy went K through 9 for the, I believe it was the 7th through 9th grade shows and the 5th through 6th grade shows. So she was the director at the time, and I was friends with her daughter. And they had convinced me, they were like, hey, Ryker, there's this summer camp coming up. It's about 2 weeks. I think it was about 2 weeks long. And you can come audition to be in Winnie the Pooh Jr. And I just really had wanted to hang out with my friends that summer, and I thought it'd be fun. So I went ahead and I signed up for the summer camp. My mom signed me up for the summer camp, and I went and auditioned to be in Winnie the Pooh Jr. And my debut role, ladies and gentlemen, my first out of 25 shows I've done so far, I got the role of Christopher Robin in Winnie the Pooh Jr. And that's been my defining role, really. There are people who come up to me on the street and say, hey, were you that kid back in 2018 who played Christopher Robin? And her name is Jules Snar. Big shout out to Jules Snar. Jules Snar's Winnie the Pooh Jr. In the summer of 2018. And I say, yeah, you got me. I say, actually, I wish I was known for more than that, because I could cure cancer one day and that's all people would know me for. It's true. It's true. Anyway, I had auditioned for that show, and that was the first show I had got into. And I don't really consider it my first real show, because it was a week-long ordeal to throw it together. And if you've ever seen Winnie the Pooh Jr. or been in it, you know it's like a 30-minute show max. And in fact, Christopher Robin's part is literally 5 minutes at the end, in which he comes out and he goes, "What's up, gang? How we doing? We having a good time out here?" And then they're all like, "No, we missed you so much." And then he's like, "Well, I'm back, and I'm awesome, and I think we learned a lesson about friendship," and everybody goes home happy. I'm going to take a quick sip of water. Sorry about that. Anyway, so that was my debut show. And then Jules at the time had noticed. She was like, "Hey, kid, you got it. I don't know what it is, but you got it. You got moxie, kid. You got va-va-voom. You got other synonyms for words like that." And she was like, "I would love for you to come audition for our, I believe it was either a 5th or 6th grade show. I think it was 5th grade. Our 5th grade show, we're doing Honk Jr." Now, this is what I consider my first real show. My first, Into the Weeds. That would be a great show. Into the Weed instead of Into the Woods. Okay, mark that down. Put my name on that. We'll talk later. Honk Jr. was my first real show. And I had auditioned and gotten the role of Drake, which, if you don't know much about Honk Jr., it's a show about the Ugly Duckling. It's a musical about the Ugly Duckling. And it takes place during that transformation period for her. And I got to play the role of the Ugly Duckling's dad, Drake. Hilarious, I know. And it was actually a big win at the time for me, because the girl I had a crush on, little 5th, 6th grade Ryker, got to play my wife in the show. So little Ryker thought this whole gig wasn't bad at all, huh? Seemed like a pretty sweet gig that I got to be married to my crush at the time. I no longer have a crush on her. So just in case you were wondering. But, that was great at the time. And 2 of my really good friends at the time were also in the show. I believe they were playing swans, one of them was playing the cat. There's a cat in the show that's trying to eat the Ugly Duckling. And it has this awesome song called "Don't Play With Your Food." It's actually a banger. It's a pretty weird show, but Honk Jr., that is a banger from that show. So she was playing the cat at the time, and my other really good friend was playing one of the swans. So I was really excited to do it, and I had a brilliant time. It was so fun, and I was like, wow, maybe this theater thing ain't so bad after all. So after that, I had made another show. Jules, who love her to death, thank you so much for starting this theater journey. I do credit her a lot for her help in starting this journey. Had asked if I wanted to be in a private, a selective group of kids who were going to perform a Shakespeare for the LPA staff at the time. And if I wanted to be a part of it. And I said, of course, that sounds wonderful. That sounds lovely. And so I got to play the role of Leonardo in Much Ado About Nothing at the ripe old age of like 13, which is insane to me that A, I was trusted to do that, or B, that I even did that. Like, that was crazy. So that was my first Shakespeare. Actually, dare to say, like, one of my only Shakespeares I've done. I've done Midsummer's also, but I don't really count that because that was more of a school project thing. Different story for a different time because I don't remember it. But anyway, so I got to be in Much Ado About Nothing, and that was my first real theater friend group. Like, that group of people, that was one of my first real theater friend groups. And that was such a cool experience to get to do Shakespeare. It's very, very, very difficult to do Shakespeare. It's not intuitive in the way that learning other lines can be intuitive because you don't speak like you do in Shakespeare. So it was very challenging at the time. And I do accredit that show for a big leap in development for me as a theater kid at that time. Then from there, I had the opportunity to go to a little theater down in Centerville, Utah called Centerpoint Legacy Theater. Now, for those of you who know me, it is most likely through Centerpoint or from school, I'm assuming. But here's a little story that I don't think a lot of you guys actually knew about my very first Centerpoint audition. Centerpoint was doing Annie Jr. It was probably about 2019, 2020, around that time. And I had signed up for the class. The way it had worked at the time is you would sign up for a class and you would be automatically put in a cast of Annie Jr. There were like 4 casts, and there were 3 age groups: the littles, the middles, and the bigs. And I'd signed up for the middles age group, and they were doing a production of Annie Jr. So I got to be in the show Annie Jr. But the way it would work is once you were in the show, you'd audition for specific parts. So if you were in the class, you were guaranteed a role, but you weren't guaranteed a part. You still had to audition for a part. And I'd gone to my first day of class. I'd met everybody. I'd learned about it. And I left class, and I remember this so very vividly. I left class, and my dad picks me up, and my mom, and we were in his truck, and we had driven to the Target parking lot. I don't remember exactly why we were there, but we were at Target, and we were sitting in the Target parking lot, and I just started bawling tears, and I was like, I don't think I can do this. I'm not cut out for this. This is the big leagues. This is too much. Everybody's gonna hate me. I'm not good enough to do this. Please don't make me do Annie Jr. Please. So I ended up dropping Annie Jr. And I wasn't gonna do Centerpoint, which is insane to think about now because Centerpoint was such a big part of my life. It was a really, really big part of my life and a part of who I am as a person in like my high school years. Huge part of my life. So it is insane to think that there was a time where I didn't want to do it. I was scared to do it. And I really thank my mom and actually Annie Farron for this. They had ended up saying, okay, we get it. You're a little nervous right now. That's okay. What we're going to do is we'll defer your spot for a little bit. And we want you to come back and audition for Aladdin Jr., which was like in a year. And my really good friend at the time, Grant, said he was going to go do it with me, who I had been doing legacy prep theater with for a little bit. So he was like, okay, we'll go audition together. We'll stick through it together. I really think you should give this a chance. So go ahead and defer this for a year. We'll come back and we'll give it another shot. And this is kind of the beginning of really important theater years in my life. But before we do that, I'm going to take a little quick break. My throat it's kind of hard to talk by yourself for an hour. So I'm going to take a quick break, and we're actually going to play a song from one of my really good theater friends, Nate. We didn't get to play it last week. Oof, that's rough. Last week, because we had already picked out our songs for the week. But Nate, we are playing Stacy's Mom. And actually, he had played this song for the first time for me when we had met at theater. So it's kind of a beautiful thing, I'd say. So this is by Fountains of Wayne. This is Stacy's Mom. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Stacy's Mom by Fountains of Wayne. Great song. Thank you, Nate, for showing me that. And hopefully you were there to hear it. Anyway, we're going to go tune in to what I like to call the center point era of my theater journey. And maybe here's a little theme music to get you excited about the center point era. Oh, yes, it's going to be so fun to talk about the center point era. All right, I'm sorry. Anyway, so this begins the beginning of the beginning of the begins. It kind of begins the beginning of my beginning binning. I love me equally. Of my center point era, which starts with Aladdin Jr., which was back in early 2020, pre-pandemic 2020. And I did this show with a couple of friends. Grant and Keegan are the two that come to mind right now, who I were very, very good friends with and made some lifelong friendships doing that. But that was my first Centerpoint show, and I did Aladdin Jr., and I remember at the time being very salty that I did not get to play Aladdin, and instead that I had to play Omar, because back then I thought I was so good at theater. I mean, if you would have met little Ryker back then, oh my gosh, he would talk your ear off about how he's the best actor in the world, actually. He's better than Timothy Chalamet, or however you pronounce it, because he doesn't care to know, because that's how good he is. Anyway, I'd done Aladdin Jr., and at the same time, I got cast in the Legacy Prep production of Into the Woods. And that was a big deal because at Legacy, it was split into, for the junior high age, it was split into two groups. There was intermediate musical theater and advanced musical theater. And if you went to Legacy, you know that AMT kids were the whole package. They were the whole deal. Like, they ran the school. And you had to do IMT to get into AMT. So, like, when you get that acceptance into IMT, it's like, all right, Rook, welcome to the G League. You're going to go play some pro NBA ball next year, but you got to prove it here. So IMT was a big deal to make at the time. And it's thanks to Jules building this beautiful program at Legacy that trained a lot of really good actors and developed a really good love for theater there. And that is a shame because COVID hit. Obviously, right after Aladdin Jr. was done, COVID had hit. And so I didn't do any theater while that was going on, obviously. Like, there was a couple of months that I didn't do any theater, and I was stricken dry of it, you know? It was almost, I can't remember exactly. I'd want to say a year since I did, till my next Centerpoint show for sure. And then my next school show, obviously COVID ruined the end of that year, and then you had to wait the summer. So yeah, it was 6 months or so. I'm not saying 6 or 7. 6 months or so before we got to do our next show at Legacy. And during that time, Jules had ended up deciding to take I can't remember exactly, but she was taking a different position. So she wasn't going to be directing it, which was so sad because it was a dream for a lot of us to do AMT with Jules. Like, that was the thing at Legacy. It was a big, big deal. And to do IMT with Jules, it was a huge deal. And obviously I'm not mad at her for doing that. I love her to death. She is still, actually, fun fact, my current voice lesson teacher to this day. So obviously a very influential person in my theater journey. We'll get to later what I consider my Mount Rushmore of people who have helped me do theater, and she's on there for sure. She's the George Washington of it. But what ended up happening is a new director came in, and she went by the name of Miss Brandt. Evil Miss Brandt. We called her something less safe for work. It was a word that started with B. I bet you could probably use your intuition to figure the rest out on what we genuinely called her behind her back. No, we didn't. We love everybody equally. But hypothetically, if we were to call her something like that, I bet you could figure out what we called her. And she almost made me quit theater. Like 100%. She almost made me quit theater. She was a nightmare. Let's think of the things we did. So for our first COVID show back, what we had decided to do is 2 live performances it was Wizard of Oz, and I was playing Tin Man. We decided to do 2 live performances of The Wizard of Oz. But Ryker, it's COVID. You can't have any audience members. Nay, said Miss Brandt. What we were going to do is perform it live on a Zoom call. It was the future of theater, she had declared. It was brilliant. I don't know how nobody had thought of this before. And you see, the issue with doing that is theater depends a lot on a live audience and participation and planning and schedule and having an okay set and, all these good things, which we did not have because we had to do it on a Zoom call. So I was playing Tin Man. And another slight issue that had popped up at the time is that my counterpart, this was cast pre-COVID. So before we had Jules had cast the show already, and before we had known that we weren't going to be able to do it, and Jules wasn't going to direct it. She had already cast the show. I was playing Tin Man, and my counterpart had ended up transferring schools between the time that took place between us, needing to do the show again. And Miss Brandt was like, nah, you got that. You can do single cast. You got that. But if anyone's ever seen Wizard of Oz, you'll know that the Tin Man and Scarecrow and Lion actually play 2 characters in the show. The farm people at the beginning, and then, Tin Man, Lion, Scarecrow, and then the farm people at the end that Dorothy talks to. And typically they're played by the same actor, but the way to get around that without having people having to rip off all the face paint and stuff is to have your counterpart play it, which is pretty smart, if I say so myself. So that's what we did for every other character except for me. I had to be put in this Amazon Tin Man costume that was effectively a sweatsuit. If you've ever seen those silver sweatsuits that people wear to work out in sometimes, that was my costume, and full face silver makeup. But I had to do it in between the scenes that I was on. And also I played a Munchkin in Munchkinland. So I had 5 costume changes in an hour-long show, and I had full face paint take on and take off, and we had no audience. So it was a terrible show, and she was a bad director. She was very mean to all of us. There was one time that she got in trouble for calling us all jackays. And at the time we were 14 and 15. So now that doesn't matter. Who cares? But at the time we were oh my gosh, that's the worst word I've ever heard in my life. And a lot of poor innocent kids lost their ear virginity that night, being called a jackay backstage during Beauty and the Beast. That was the second show she directed, and I played Lumiere, and oh my gosh, she was evil to us. She was so rude to all of us. And that was my first AMT show. And so she got fired after that year and replaced by a new director, and she was great. But the program was so bad that there were 10 people returning to do AMT the next year, the 9th grade year. And there were 10 of us, so not a lot. And I think 4 or 6 of them were 7th graders, which was not a thing that we used to do. It used to just be junior, I guess it would be 8th graders and 9th graders, like junior and senior upperclassmen for the show. And we couldn't do that because she had ruined the program so much. It's insane. But we did Into the Woods Junior that year, and I hated it. Into the Woods Junior is the worst show of all time, and you can't change my mind. Because little fun fact about me, my favorite show of all time is actually Book of Mormon, the musical. But, you can't really say that all the time. So I usually end up saying my second favorite show of all time, which is Into the Woods. And we'll get to that on why that is. So it made me hate Into the Woods because Into the Woods Junior is a stupid show. It's just the first act, and there's no point in doing Into the Woods if you don't do the second act. And I will die on this hill. So anyway, that's how I closed out my legacy years. And I did a couple more shows at Centerpoint, and I loved it. I was having a great time there. And finally, if you remember, I got bumped up from the middles group to the bigs group because of COVID. They were doing 8 casts of the Addams Family, to give people this opportunity to do this show, and they needed more boys to do it. So I got called up from the middles group to go to the bigs group and play Lucas Beinecke in the Addams Family in the full show. And we did it a really cool way because it was still around COVID time. We had scripts on stage, and it was like almost like a radio play. It was really cool, but it was full costume, and we all had chairs themed around our characters. So it was super fun. Really good show. But we're going to skip ahead a little bit to my very first, what Centerpoint had done was what were called audition-only shows. And what this meant was instead of the structure earlier where you sign up for a class, you get in the class, you're guaranteed to be in the show. What it would be is you have to audition and you're not guaranteed a part in the show. Like normal. It's like a normal thing. It's not that crazy. And the very, very first one the Academy was doing was Little Woman. And I went out and auditioned for it, and I had made it. I got to play Mr. Lawrence as a like 9th grader. I got to play Mr. Lawrence, who is like a 70-year-old man, and Little Woman, and my counterpart was a senior at the time who was, I only weigh like 130 pounds now. I'm not a big dude by any means, but like, dude, my counterpart was like 6'2", probably like 200 pounds. He was a big dude, so it was hilarious seeing the side-by-side on the counterparts on that. Pretty funny. All right. Anyway, so Little Woman was a big deal for me because this is what reinstated my love for theater again. Because I got to the end of my AMT years in 9th grade and I was like, okay, I'm not really loving this anymore. Seems kind of dumb. I want to go back to soccer. And I don't know. I haven't really found my people. And I'm so glad I did this show because Little Woman is when I really found my people. And the director at the time, Lindsay, helped me find my love for theater again and really made me the actor I am today. And I have so much to owe to her for that because Little Woman was a special, special experience. And Little Woman is still like one of my favorite shows of all time because of this experience. It was a massive hit at the time. And I can't thank her enough for that show and also for the people in that show, that cast, some of whom are still some of my very lifelong friends. And it really changed my life. It really did. I was definitely struggling at the time to find friends and feeling like I was fitting in. And that cast of people really helped me start to find myself and feel comfortable in my own skin. So I do have a lot to owe to them. And also that show's just beautiful. It is a beautiful show. But that was my first audition-only show. And I just realized I'm running out of time here, gang. I'm so sorry. So we're going to have to skip ahead a little bit. The next audition-only show I had made, and then I had made a couple more, and it really started to become this thing where I'm doing Centerpoint Theater. This is my place. These are my people. This is what I love. Then, like, one of the next very important shows that I got into was Into the Woods, which Lindsay was also directing herself. And once again, this became a cast of some of my best friends in the entire world, and I got to play Baker in it, which was amazing. It was such a brilliant experience, and I remember having a lot of doubt at the time because my counterpart was very, very good. And I doubted myself a lot. I was like, man, am I any good at this? Do I have what it takes to play Baker, to be this really big lead role? And we did the full 3 hours. So it was a large commitment. And there was definitely a lot of me wondering if I had what it takes. And I got to thank that cast, and I got to thank that production team for trusting in me and letting me do it, because it helped me develop a lot as an actor. And I would say it's probably one of my more breakout roles and one of my favorite things I've ever done. One of the most amazing experiences in my life. And I owe a lot to that. I also owe a lot to Danny Inkley, who runs Centerpoint Academy, by the way, shout out. Well, I guess he doesn't run the Academy. He runs Centerpoint. But he had helped me find my footing at the time. He'd trust me in a lot of lead shows, and I'm really, really thankful for him as well. And there is a whole second half of this journey I would love to talk about that I'm going to have to skip today, because I do want to get to the one question that actually someone sent in. Thank you. Sophie had asked about my experience in Evita, which this is a really funny story to end off on, so I'm really excited to tell it. Little fun fact about me is Little Woman was the first ever audition-only show for the Academy. And I was in every single one, except for 12 Angry Jurors, but we don't count that one because, yeah. Anyway, I was in every audition-only show, from Little Woman to the last show that I could have been in for my age group, which is Hadestown. And Evita was smack dab in the middle. It was my junior year, I believe. And it was such a strange show because, no disrespect to the team, by the way. I love you all. You were one of my favorite production teams I worked with. I had so much fun. But it was such a weird show because a lot of our friends at the time were like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go out for Evita. It seems weird. Doesn't seem up my alley. So it was the most ragtag group of our friends. It was me, Chloe, Lila, Sophie, Tayson, Lauren, Ainsley. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting anybody. And it was the most ragtag group of our friends, strange connection of people. And we did not take it seriously at all for a long time. A couple of fun stories from it. We had it was around Christmas time that we did this show, and we had a gift giveaway thing. And so it was this group of us, who were really good friends coming into it. And then like 7th graders, like 27th graders. And we did a Secret Santa, and we made it the most hype Secret Santa of the entire world. Like, we were screaming and yelling, just 8 of us. And like everybody else was kind of just like, okay, yeah, whatever, guys, get lit. And we were screaming and yelling and jumping, and we were filming it. And every gift we were like, that's the greatest gift in the world. And we had made everybody in that cast hate us so much. Another fun story from Evita is that I was single cast again. And we already know how I feel about that, as Juan Perón, which is not a small role in that show. It's like a 2-hour, 30-minute show. It's a Andrew Lloyd Webber show. It's a hard show to do. And I was single cast. And I got to play the beautiful role as a white 16-year-old boy of Juan Perón, who is a very Latin American man. We're in Davis County, Utah, though, so things like that just kind of happen. And we go on with our lives. So I got to play single cast, and all my friends were in ensemble who were also single cast. So we had a great time. My really good friend, Chloe Davis, had asked me to Winters during that show also. And the way that they had done it is they had choreographed a dance for me to the... They're going to hate me for not remembering this, but like the Pitch Perfect theme, they had changed the lyrics and the dance so that way they could perform it and ask me to Winners. And they had performed it for me on the stage before we had done our show. And there was this kid in the cast whose name shall remain anonymous, who we think had a crush on Chloe at the time. And he was kind of our op. So basically they had performed this dance for me, asked for to Winners, the poster, the whole 9 yards. And after we walk backstage, and he's sitting there, and he's pissed. And he's sitting and he's going, why would she ever ask you to Winters? Which is the funniest thing that's ever been said to me in my entire life. And then he was so nice to me for the rest of the show run, and it was so strange. But I have so many more stories I'd love to tell, but I am running out of time tonight. I think the other show is sitting out there, and they're staring at me, and they're like, dude, get out of the booth. I'm sorry, gang. So we're going to take it away. I would love to tell you more. If Harrison's not around next week, I'll go ahead and I'll tell you the rest of the story. Or if it comes up, I'll tell you the rest of the story. I'm so sorry. I thought I could fit it into this hour. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to leave off on a song called No One Is Alone from the Into the Woods cast. It's a beautiful song. It's one of my favorite songs from the show. Thank you for sticking with me tonight, even though it was just me. Hopefully Harrison will be back next week. If not, we have a guest, so that's going to be awesome. Thank you very much.